We're live.
We are.
So, it's another classic car ramblings, and
I
I'm
guess
Mark
it's
Shettenhelm.
episode 2.
Yep,
Do you call it
episode 2.
episode or podcast 2? Which one?
Hi, episode, yeah, episode 2. Um, I'm Mark Shettenhelm. You can see me as Motor City Car Culture, and Mike, Speed and Shine, right there in your hat.
Yeah, right there. Right there. But it's backwards, isn't it? Why is that backwards?
I don't understand why they can't be smart enough to figure out a way to flip it back, but I don't know. And you're in your
Yeah,
garage. No,
yeah,
actually, oh
I
yeah, it is
am. I
backwards.
am in my garage. I want to show you. I thought it would be interesting to see you can see the inside, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this is the current situation on the outside, right? I mean, that's not very pleasing, am I right? It's Ice Station Zebra yet again. So
Yeah, yeah, the Maverick is still in hibernation.
yeah, and the Mustang's over there. So,
Yeah,
but we're here to talk about car auctions.
yeah, no, and that's what we wanted to talk about is about it, how to do it, what you should go to, how to prepare. Is it worthwhile to go as a visitor if you're not going to buy? In the experience. So, um, you recently were in Scottsdale, right?
Mhm. Yep, yep.
And you did. Oh, so you were Barrett Jackson in Scottsdale?
Barrett Jackson was there Wednesday through Saturday. We also checked out a couple, some other stuff that was going on because
Mm-hmm.
we're in Scottsdale. And then we drove on Saturday afternoon for a little while. We took off and went to Mesa, Arizona, and there was another little smaller auction, and it's actually was like in the parking lot grassy area of a stadium where a team goes for spring training. I can't remember who it was for the life of me, but I was like, hey, that's cool. We're in that parking lot. And of course, when you're at Barrett Jackson, which is like the premier, and then you go to a smaller one, it's considerably different. But they're all cool, right? I mean, if you've never been to an auction, it's probably pretty easy in your state to look around and find a smaller one to go to. You don't always have to go to Barrett Jackson or Mecum to get that full experience. You can go to the local.
Right. And the reason why an auction is what I like is the quality of the cars. Now, I'm not saying, they're immaculate, perfect, but it's like if people send them to an auction, they often feel if I just do it in my area or try to sell it through Craigslist, I really, this is a special car. This isn't just a normal
Right.
car. There's something about it, a history of it. It's rare. There's something about it. And so I like the auctions because I'll probably see cars that I just wouldn't see in Facebook Marketplace. There are some like that, but people put them there because they
True.
want that a larger audience to look at them.
True. And with Facebook or Facebook Marketplace, you can go and you can look at the
Yeah,
car, um, and and you might have a little bit of time, but the owner's standing right there. They're looking at it. It could be a little bit. I think my microphone's not working
no,
here.
I hear you.
Um, this might be a little better. Is that better?
Yeah, it's the same. You're good. Right.
And
So there's that experience. So, like, if you're going to look at a car, you've got a certain amount of time and you're looking at that car and you're making up your
right,
mind. Where at an auction, and I may be jumping ahead, but I would recommend if you really were looking to buy, to go a day or so before because the cars are there and you can kind of look
right,
at them, think about it, and you don't have to make your decision then. Where if you're doing Facebook Marketplace, you might want to make your decision then before someone else gets to it. You think about it. It's in some ways an easier buying experience because you can look at it, walk around a little bit, come back a little bit, and no one's hovering. So I think in some ways that's a good experience. The bad thing about an
It
auction is
is, but there's
you're
a
bidding.
whole lot you got to think about. Like, all
Hmm.
right, so let's just say you see a car coming up at auction and you're interested in it. So, first you got to do the research on the auction house, find out, how reputable kind of
The fees,
information show them to become a bidder,
right?
right? Because Barrett Jackson requires, I think it's a line of credit from your bank that says a certain amount. That's all got to be sent in and up ahead
Yeah,
of
again,
time.
jumping ahead, but right, if you're going to visit, there's a certain fee and you just pay that and you can walk around. You have a certain amount of access depending on what you pay for. If you're a
Right,
registered bidder, you have to pay more, but again, you get some good access. But then you
right.
also, to bid, you have to say, I'm willing to spend this, like I have these funds.
Yeah, you have to, yeah, right. And then you got to set your budget and tell yourself not only you got to think about the purchase price of the car, depending on where it is, like Barrett Jackson, and you live in Michigan, you got to think about, there's going to be taxes on that. There's the buyer fee, which at Barrett Jackson's 10% of the price,
Right.
right?
So you say I'm going to pay $50,000 and they go, "Okay, that's another 5 grand on it."
Right. Yeah. And then you got to think about the shipping costs to get it back.
And then you got to
There's,
get it
there's,
insured probably right away.
right.
So like as soon as that gavel goes down, they want their money.
Yeah. The clock starts ticking on all of those things. Right. And my
And then they
friend
got to get
bought.
it out of there. You only have a certain amount of days to get the car out of there.
Yeah, and skipping ahead a little bit, that's
Yeah.
one of the things that concerns me is I see people buy cars earlier in the week and then they're still sitting there and I know they're waiting for transportation to get them and there's a certain thing. People are still milling about opening the door of these cars and looking at them and and the staff does really good to stop people. They say, "Look,
Yeah,
you don't
yeah.
own that car, don't yeah. Don't touch it." But anyways, that does happen. But yeah, there's a lot you got to think about before you get there and know
So
about the car that you're purchasing.
right. So that's why I wanted to. We've been going ahead. Let's go back a little bit. So before you even, so a couple things. Prepare by deciding which auction you're going to go to because you want to get the right one. If you're going for a lower dollar car, that smaller auction you talked about might be a good place to go. But if you're really looking
Right.
for something unusual, then you really want to go to a Barrett Jackson or Worldwide or one or Mecum or something like that. You want to look at the catalog, what's up, and say, are these the types of cars that I want? And,
Yeah.
what am I going to find there? And some people seem to go there and they go, wow, I never considered those. I saw it. It looked really cool. I like the color and I bought it. I don't know. Maybe they're going to be happy. I'm not
And
that way.
sometimes they go with a plan, right? They have a
Yeah.
plan. They only want to spend a certain amount, but then they have a lot of alcoholic beverages, and they start bidding on things they shouldn't, or they bid higher than their preset budget. Hey, Hammer Wrench Renovations, hello. And then we have another gentleman who joined us. Says hello. Hello to you guys.
Right. So, right. So you could plan and say, I'm going to go bid on this car. And maybe
Hmm.
you got outbid and you might get something out. So I just, I like to be prepared and really know that car. And that's just me. But other people might just buy and go, I got it. And I'll sell it. I guess it's whatever
Yeah.
you want. But I would think it would be disappointing to go all the way to a show and not be your kind of car. If I like cars from the 30s and I go to something it's all muscle car or the other way around, you really want to go to a show that has the type of cars you
Right.
might be interested in and
Right.
has
Well,
several that
in
you could
most auctions,
bid on.
though, have a
They
wide
really
variety of
do.
cars.
I'm really
Yeah.
surprised. They do have a wide variety. So there's going to be something you like and probably so maybe it's you may have your sights set on a particular car you want to get, but someone else wants it more than you. And they're going to get it. So maybe have in mind a couple of the cars. Or
Right.
just say, you know what, I'm not going to buy.
Right. True. But that's doing your research ahead of time, paying attention to, the car, understand what a car is worth. Like I posted today a GS2 Buick Grand Sport Stage 2. You got to know what they're worth. You also got to know if it's real or not. You got to, check the documentation out that comes with it. And that's one of the things with the larger auction houses. They're pretty good about making sure that stuff's right. Worldwide auctioneers, Mecum, um, Barrett Jackson, of course, even those bigger, more elite ones that do a lot of the pre-war cars and stuff.
Yes.
Um,
And the
you're,
Sotheby's and that. Yeah.
yeah,
So, right, they're going to check and say, here's the VIN. It's a clone or it's real. They're going to do some of that vetting for you on it.
yeah. Yeah, and they charge the seller, for example, Barrett Jackson, I think it's 8%, but you think that's a lot of money, but they're gonna market the car. It's gonna be on their online catalog, I mean, and of course, it's a no reserve auction. So when you go to Barrett Jackson, that's it. It's gonna sell for whatever it's gonna sell. Where Mecum, you can do a no reserve and you can do a reserve. And of course, they charge the seller 6%, I think it is, for no reserve and 10% for reserve. And then there's an entry fee that they charge them. And then if you do no reserve, you get a discount off that. There's a little complicated numbers, but again, the buyer pays 10% more if it's online. And so
I,
yeah, having a
you know,
plan.
as a visitor to auction, I've never bought anything auction, but I mean, the no reserve is appealing because I find it, you're there and it's like, oh, it didn't sell. Oh, it didn't sell. Oh, it didn't sell. And I think that's why Barrett Jackson went, that's just, it's, it's like going to a game and it's a tie. It's just
you
not satisfying. You really want to sell it. And so people who go there and put their car up have to really have it prepared and ready and everything, like we were talking about the documentation of it, have all that done, have your inspections, have all your work, your prep work, make that thing really stand out before you list it, and have provide all that, really make it stand, because it's going to sell if it's no
yeah.
reserve.
And that's what makes it a little more exciting. Every car that goes up
Hmm.
there is gonna sell, right?
Someone's
Where
going to buy that.
Mecum, it's, it can be, or it may or may not, right? That if you really want a car and you're willing to spend, you're gonna buy it if you have the money.
Right,
Um,
you're going to get it, and you might get a
so
deal. I mean,
right.
sometimes I'm look at it before an auction and I kind of play my game of what would I bid? What do I think it will go for? And at the end, sometimes like, whoa, that's way more. And other times I'm like, I should have registered. Like that, that's a good
Yeah.
deal.
There's been some good deals that I've seen. And so a good example of doing your research. So when we went in October to Barrett Jackson, one of the friends I was with, Adam, really liked this 67 Ford Fairlane red, great looking car. The listing looked good. Then we checked it out. Really, really checked it out. And we kind of, I don't want to say I'm going to post a video on it. We talked them out of it in a way. We tore that thing apart. This problem, that problem, looking
Yeah.
underneath. I mean, in the staging lane where I like to hang out, you can really crawl under the car. You can see it run. They raise the hood, the doors are open. You look at, I mean, you can really
That's
look
an
at a car in
important
15 minutes.
point. So, like beforehand, all the cars are there and under like big tents and that, and you can walk
Yes.
around them and you have some limited, usage of them, and you can get an idea of them. Um, But when you get to the staging area, you've seen it run,
Mhm.
you can listen to it. You can look,
Mhm.
does it have smoke coming out the back? Is it creaking? You can get an idea of how it is that way. And then they're opening doors and doing stuff. So, yeah, I think trying to get near the staging and seeing them before they go up, if you were a buyer, would be smart.
And it's nice. There's like a pre-staging there. So there's a staging area before that. So you really get a chance to look at
So,
them there.
the staging
Anybody can
area
look at 'em.
for baseball term is an on deck circle. Like
Yeah.
it's it's gonna go up in the next 3, 4, 5 cars right there. But you're saying there's even a pre one
It's
where they get it out of the
there's a
lot
pre one.
and they go, "You're coming up in half an hour or so," and then they drive it up there, and you sit there, and they park it, and then they go to the real staging area.
Yeah,
So,
that's where it's covered that you see, has race deck flooring and at Bear Jackson, the McGuire's team goes after the car and starts
all
wiping it
right,
down
and
and
is the
you
bar
still have a chance to look at it, but you need to be a bidder or have the right credentials to get in that area.
now you were in there working the last one, right? Didn't you do something?
Yeah.
You were wiping. Yeah, I'm a little jealous of that. So go
Yeah,
ahead and
I
brag.
I said, I told the people I work with, I said, we watched this on TV, the replays during lunch. I said, we're someday you're going to see me up there. I'm going to be cleaning those cars. I really want to clean. So the McGuire's team was very great, and I saw some smudges and stuff. And my buddy was holding the camera, and I said, can I clean this car? So I went in there and went to town. I thought it was fun, and I like to clean cars. That's what I'm all about. So some of those guys really took great care to make sure the car looked the best, and some of them it was just a job, right? And so if it was my car, and what you're talking about is really important, some of the cars I noticed were really prepared well, under the hood, everywhere. And McGuire's team only had to do a little bit, and some of the cars look like they could have done a lot more to make them
So really,
more
before it
marketable, right?
gets like before you ship it out there, get your car
Yes.
good. And then from that you're going to get some smudges and everything. And maybe that's where the
Well,
pre
it's the
area,
desert, and so
yeah.
there's some wind. I think some of the dust, on the outside of the car probably came from that, but they can wipe that off. I'm talking about where they didn't vacuum the interior, they didn't clean up,
Which
and
is
under the
classic.
hood got
I mean, that's like even back to Facebook Marketplace, clean your car. So
right.
if you're going to all that trouble and expense to do it before you ship it out there, if you don't feel like doing it yourself, hire a detailer,
Yeah.
clean that thing before it gets out there. And then, yeah, it might get a little dust, it might get a smudge that they can easily take care of. But they are not going to go and deep clean your car.
No, but I'll tell you, Worldwide Auctioneers. I think even when you were down there with me, there was a
Hmm.
team. I can't remember. I'll remember it after this broadcast. But there was a team there, and they're hired by the auction house, and they go in and they clean the cars, fully
Oh, okay.
detail the
So
cars,
they
and,
do.
and
Okay.
they make them look really good. Now, I don't know if that's set up, and the owners are charged for that, or if they do every
Mm.
car. I don't know, but that team does a very good job down there at Worldwide Auctioneers,
Yeah,
and
those
and
cars were
and
really prepared well. They looked
right.
good. And that's what you want is to really look good so when it comes across the block, it looks great. So it's that preparation and it as someone like you say, you like to keep your car clean, you appreciate that and you like watching them work and getting them clean. It makes a difference.
It
It
does. Well, and like I say, a dirty car has never been in style, right?
Even a rat rod has some order to it.
True, true.
They can be pretty
Yeah.
clean.
Um, and I'll tell you, I really enjoy when I'm sitting, on the floor of the auction, and I'm near somebody, and you can hear them talking. Their car's coming up. They're excited. They've been looking forward to it. They probably researched the car. They probably looked at it in the stage lane, and they want that car. And when they win that car, and it they're so excited and they're so happy because it's probably their dream car. They're not just a collector. This means a lot to them. They probably worked hard for it, saved for it. That's really cool to see. And then
And
the
that's part of, there's that bonding between you and the car. And part of it is the story of how I got it, how I found it. Anybody who has a special car, you, if you've got some time to spare, ask them how they got it. But an
you're
auction,
absolutely right. Right.
I've learned that. And it's great stories, but an auction is really that's part of the experience and you got it there. You saw it. You came there for it. You got ready, you beat out those other people, you got it, and you won the car. Now you got to pay all the money and go through all that stuff and get it shipped and all that. But you got it there, and you can say, "Oh, I bought it at an auction." That becomes
Right.
part of that car.
And then there's people there who are buying it for someone else. They sent, someone who's an expert or can really look at a car and
Mm,
and make sure it's the right, the right buy, and it represents what it says it is. And so you see that too. And they'll be on the phone talking to people, and that's some of the fun in the staging lane, is listening to those conversations with the person who wants to buy it and the person who's brokering the deal. I'll call it. It's pretty interesting.
right, you buy it through someone else there because they know the auctions, they understand the prices, and they get so like you say, "I want this car," they actually negotiate it, kinda do it for you.
Right.
Yeah.
I met some people in the staging lanes, and they were looking at a red Porsche in the pre-staging lane, and we kind of befriended them. They asked what we did, and my buddies had my shirts on and stuff, and we got talking. And he said he's interested in the car, and we had preliminary looked at the car because one of my friends is interested in Porsches, and we noticed some problems with it. So I said, what are you going to do with this car? And he thought it was a really great deal. But then, of course, I showed him what I found, that the door had been replaced. You could see when you opened up the door where they had taken the door off and the bolts were kind of messed up in the paint, and you could see the finish was different. And, we pointed out the stuff. And, you don't want to do that for the auction house to lose a sale, right? I
Mhm.
feel like I don't want to turn anybody away from something, but at the same time, this gentleman was going to spend $100,000, and the reason he was gonna spend that is he thought it was, a certain caliber of a car, right? That it
More
it
something
it
he
it
could
hasn't been
show
taken apart, right?
rather than a
And
driver.
he
Yeah.
he was very thankful that, I pointed that stuff out to him, and he didn't purchase it. And the car went for way more than it should have. And that's what happened to Adam's Fairlane that he wanted. He decided, anyways, after we showed him everything that was wrong with it,
Mm,
tore the car apart. It still was a great looking car, better than any
yeah.
car I have. But we were trying to be critical to show him so he would not be upset when he bought it. And he had it in his mind. I think he was going to go as high as 26,000 or something, and it went for double that. And he was out at that point. Did that person who paid that? I don't think they got ripped off. I don't want to say that by any means, but for the price they paid, I've seen some really nice cars in that range that have far less issues to take care of. Right?
That's part of the fun of an auction. Like I say, I always play that game. What would I pay? What should it go for? And,
Yeah,
some people do it for the Oscars. I do it at auctions. And I have
it's a
my
lot of fun.
picks. And I'm sometimes surprised, like that went double what I would pay. And that's just me because, that's what I would pay. And then
Mhm.
other cars, I'm like, oh, I should have
Surprise,
gotten in on
right?
that one. That was good.
Yeah, there's been some real surprises. Like I think I mentioned in the last podcast, it was I think it's a 69 or 70 Mustang that they built around a Ford GT chassis, engine and everything. And
Oh,
the
right.
amount of work. Everybody thought it was going to go for $400,000 or $500,000. It sold for 150 plus the buyer fee. So I don't know, it came out to like $163,000 or something. And I was like, "Are you kidding me?" I mean,
And no
of course,
reserve.
there was no way I could have purchased that, but for me, that was the car I would have bought, and that was the car that was the best deal. So for me, it's a little disappointing to not have that lotto jackpot money to make that purchase, because I certainly would have came home with that car.
Yeah, right. That's the thing is, sometimes I think, oh, those auctions, they're expensive, but not because of the cars that come there. Sometimes like that's what it is. It's a special car. And other times it's like, oh, that's a pretty good deal. Now, some of the auctions, there's the Thursday auction, the Friday auction, the Saturday and the Sunday. Generally
Yeah.
the Saturday night like is like the top. top cars.
Right. Super Saturday, Barrett Jackson calls it, right?
Right. And then Sunday it kind of goes down. There's still some good ones. Friday night kind of builds up, but the Saturday is the real one. And they start out kind of slow and then they get up to the big things. I'm interested sometimes in that Thursday or so because not everybody's there. There's the lower value cars. And that's where I
Sure.
think you can kind of make a deal. You can say, that's a
Yeah.
pretty good car. That's a fair price. And I think if you didn't have half a million to spend, you could still go to an auction and you would go to those earlier days and choose wisely and you could get something.
Right, right. I had a friend who bought a really nice car at Worldwide Auctioneers on a Saturday on the afternoon,
Mm,
and he got a really, really good deal on that car, and I would have bought that car. So yeah, you're right. You just that's the other thing. Those surprises that come up where there just aren't buyers there for it, and you may be the only person who's interested in that car, and you get to pick it up for a deal, and it does happen.
you never you never know.
You
And
just don't know.
what I've thought about is if, like I said, plan on going for like two cars. But what if that's kind of bad if both of them came up good and you were only going to buy one. So that's the strategy. Again, that's planning ahead, looking at the catalog, saying what's coming up Thursday. If I really like this car on Friday and I buy it,
Yeah.
I'm out. I can't buy that one Saturday. So do I pass up this one Friday
Yeah.
and plan to get this and then it goes double? Those are the tough choices.
Well, and that's what happened. I cover it in one of my videos that's out there. A friend bought he went to Barrett Jackson specifically to buy a fresh build street rod, and he had it in his mind how much he wanted to pay for it. Um, he was texting me while it was going, through the auction at Barrett Jackson, and it went just couple $1,000 higher than what he was willing to pay, and he let it go because he drew the line. He did what you should do,
Good.
right? But then he called me a few days later. I felt bad for him. And he said, "Look, I got some cars being delivered to my house. I want you to help unload them when they bring them there." I said, I thought you didn't get that car. He said, "I didn't, but I bought four other ones." So his plan switched. He didn't get the one he specifically wanted there, and he brought other cars home. And yeah,
But
and then he
okay,
had to yeah,
and as long as you're happy with them. And maybe that's a
yeah,
thing where, I would be interested in that, but my first choice fell through. So now that freed me to look at other ones and selectively they were the right person for that car and got it at what they felt was a fair deal. And that can
true.
happen.
Yeah, it would be very disappointing though. Let's say you live, somewhere in the country and that car is at Barrett Jackson. You're going to get on a plane, you're going to fly there, you're going to get a hotel room, all this cost involved. And then you get there and you can't buy it. And it's disappointing. And so in that case, maybe you do what you say there, have some backups. And that would be a good plan. Like if I don't get this one, other cars that I would be interested in, so that you're not just disappointed. I'm out. I'm just
Right.
gonna
Seriously, look at it and
go home
say,
mad, right?
unless, I just had to have that car and that's it. It's the only one on the planet, whatever. But if you're like, I want a good car, I'm interested in, I want this one. But this, if I don't get that one, I'm looking at the things on set, that's on Friday and Saturday or Sunday, and looking at those and going, I would like this for the right price. If this was good,
Right,
or you
right.
got there and, take a look at those cars, you might say, well, I saw the pictures online, but now I see it. I like that car. Have a backup plan if you're really intending to get a car to go in and say, yeah, I'm going to, and then see how that goes. And you might come up with something. Um,
So
one
I
of,
I
yeah,
sold. I tried to sell one car in the '80s at an auction. It was my '66 Corvair convertible. I decided I wanted to buy some other cars. I had a few cars at that time, and the way the local auction worked, I paid $25 to run it through. Um, and then if you sell it, they got $100, I think it was. But and it was comical because there's just people sitting in folding chairs, 30, 40 people on a Thursday night or whatever it was in the middle of summer. And the auctioneer just has you come up and talk about your car. So he starts the bidding and then he stops and then you talk about your car. It's a Corvair convertible. I put a different stereo or whatever it was, and then he does some more bidding, then you have your price. And of course, no one wanted to give me what I wanted for
Mhm.
it. And as a young person, I thought it was worth more than it should be. And what was interesting about that, there was a gentleman from the local Ford dealership, salesperson there, and the next day he seeked me out and bought the car outside the auction later for a little bit cheaper than I wanted for it. So I
That
did end
some
up selling.
that sometimes happens. That
Yeah.
and okay, so I wanted to get to that, like the price we talked about, Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist. I've looked at a lot of cars. You've looked at a lot of cars, and you go there, and it's sometimes the owners are like, I know you have this vision of the car, but I'm looking at it and I'm seeing rust here. I'm seeing this, and I'm starting to add up like, all right, well, here's all the work. I'm going to have to do a full tune up on it. It's going to need new tires. And I'm calculating that. And, I come up with my price. A lot of times the sellers are unrealistic, right?
Yeah, I bought the T-Bird that I bought for my wife, for what was it, her 25th wedding anniversary. I bought that off Facebook Marketplace. I saw this
Oh, you can
2002
do
T-Bird.
no, there's it's fine, but I'm saying some
Yeah,
buyers are just
right.
unrealistic. The beautiful thing
Yeah,
about
and
an auction, and it's like you in there, and they're like, here's my price, and they're like, my price is here, and you negotiate and you walk away. And sometimes I've been the
yeah,
seller where people are trying to what I felt was lowball me, and you get that
sure.
with an auction. It kind of takes a lot some of that stress away because the buyer, especially if it's if it's yeah, no limit there, and they just sell it, and then it's you against the other people, and you come up with
Yeah.
a true price for that day for that car. So if you don't like haggling with
Hmm.
someone and going through, or and like, this person's unreasonable, here's all the work, and then they don't, it can be a bad relationship trying to buy a car from someone. An auction, in many ways, is much less stress because you come there, like you said, you look at the car at your leisure, you see it, you walk away, you come back, you look at it, you see it go, you get a good feel for it. You might have some time to go do some research on it, like maybe see something like, wait a minute, how much would it cost for new tires for that? Or how much would it cost? I don't like those wheels. You can really think
Right.
about it. And then when it goes up, it's you against the people there, and
True.
that decides the price. So it takes away a lot of the stress of buying a car, I think.
It
It
does. I
it
mean, there's still
can be a
stress,
fun
but yeah.
experience.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
And
one of the most exciting things I saw on TV, and I was always a viewer of Barrett Jackson. It was an event for me. Saturday night was get chicken wings and eat that and
I
watch the
wanted to
thing. And
get
that
into that. I'm glad you started on it because
that
the other
Batmobile
things.
sale was, went for 4.3 million, right? And
Hmm.
two guys were bidding, and it was getting very exciting, and people were going crazy. And then they realized they're just seats away from each other, right? Um, and they stop the auction. Those guys talk, and they flip a coin for it. I mean, because they were just driving each other's price up, right?
Yeah.
And
And
it was
yeah,
cool. It was cool.
they're right. They're helping the auctioneer, they're helping the other, but they're not helping themselves. So they just, yeah.
No, no, there was a lot of bids between two guys just sitting, and they weren't giving up. I mean, I love the Batmobile, and it was the number one,
Yeah,
right? You're not going to get a better prominence Batmobile. That was the one to get. But I don't know, 4.3 or 4.6, whatever it went for. That is a lot of money
it
for
is.
a car.
So the other thing with the auctions, I mean, you do spend a lot of time looking at the cars, and as you kind of touched on, there's a lot of different. It's a great car show on its own, just to go
It
there.
is. It is.
All
When I
kinds,
was at
and so
Mecum,
you could have a Model T. and you can have a Lamborghini. They may not
Yep.
be next to each other, but you can
Yep.
have 1940 Packard Darren. I see that they're going to have at Auburn coming up. I mean, all these great cars that are exciting to see that are like you see in museums, and then they have other things that are pretty normal. But you see all
Yep.
these cars. It's great to go just if, why go if you're not bidding? I say go because it's a great car show. And if you want to bid someday, it's good to go to a show first to get a feel for it.
Oh, certainly.
And
Certainly go
there's a lot of
and
activities too there.
yeah. Yeah, Meekum had some stuff going on. There
Mhm.
was tons of cars. I went to the
And
one
there's
in Indy.
vendors too, right?
Vendors selling stuff, everything. Now, Barrett Jackson, you can buy a helicopter while you're there. You can buy a huge yacht they had inside. I mean, their clientele that they're shopping for. I mean, twelve
I
thousand dollar
didn't see.
massage
Did you
chairs.
have the helicopter outside there in the snow earlier?
Mm. Yeah,
No.
no helicopters. But $12,000 massage chairs, and they're moving those things. They're selling them like quite a few of them every day. So yeah, it's different. But yeah, anybody who's interested in cars, car enthusiasts should go to a Mika, Barrett Jackson around their area, worldwide auctioneers or some of those other ones that you talked about.
And they're all over the
Um,
country too.
they're
I mean,
all
there's
over.
Auburn, there's
And
Vegas, Scottsdale. Um, there's that show. Yeah, I don't. They're all over. There's some down in Florida, usually in the winter.
oh
They're all
yes.
over.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
And
auctions. I went to one in
And they're not
Toronto
all
once.
they're not
Yeah,
expensive to go to. Most of them, 20, $30. You can get in and give you, half a day or longer of some fun. But, Barry Jackson, there's people there and they're not even paying attention to the cars going by, really. They're just out enjoying their friends, eating, drinking, just enjoying the atmosphere, and they have bands playing. And so there's more to it than just buying cars, which is it's like an
the
event,
the
right?
bigger auctions are more an event,
Yeah.
and they're more of an event. Like I said, I consider them like a really good car show. Um,
Hmm.
so they're a car show. You see some really unique cars, and you can get up close. You can see these great cars, so that's great. You can see them actually move and drive when they're getting ready in the staging area. So that's thrilling. And there's just a whole lot of other fun things. There's the food, the drinks, the other vendors. So they're just a fun car experience.
And one of the things I like is seeing a car that you see like Dave Kingdick do on TV or Gas Monkey Garage or one of those other shows do or builders do, and you see it in a magazine. You finally get to see it in person when they're selling, and you get to really look at it and say, okay, is the paint really as good as I think it is? Is the fit and finish? Is the trim really put on the correct way? I enjoy seeing those, and I'll tell you this: Dave King Diggs cars never disappoint. They are exactly what you see and how they're built, and they're just every time they're just wow. They really impress me. The work that his crew does, and I don't know why anybody would sell one at auction, but I've seen it. So you would think you'd want to hold on to that car, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's I think I would recommend people probably have it on their bucket list, and someday I want to go it, and I say just do it. And maybe if and then, do you want to fly out to Scottsdale, get the hotel, and do all that? Or is there something more local? And I would kind of recommend a more local auction just to get a feel if you've never been to an auction, just to kind of see that and feel it and go, okay, and then go to the big one. But no matter what, do your
yeah,
research. Um, get prepared. You're still buying it. I think it can be less stressful than buying it or going and hunting because it's there. It's thrilling. Um, it's a good experience. I don't know. What else
yeah.
do you have to say?
It is. It's an event. It's fun, and Barrett Jackson. What I've learned, the January, they're now stretching that whole thing out. Other events are tacking on. That's why that other auction was going on,
It's an
and
auction
there was
season
Bring
because
a
there's
Trailer car
yeah.
show. Yeah, so they've stretched out to like a whole month of events, and especially that week. If I would have got down there like the weekend before and stayed through that week, there was something every day that I would have loved to have gone to. Right, it would have been really cool to.
And if you follow us, what we do is we do kind of occasionally get to an auction. We'll try to do them. I know, like last year, we were in Auburn beforehand, and we did some content from there. You just did that content, so um, we don't we don't jet set around the country going to every single auction, but we
Not,
do.
I don't get paid much for my content at all.
I
So
get nothing.
that that trip was, believe it or not, almost everything that I made, had to pay for that trip, right? And
Hmm.
for me to ever go back, I got a year's worth of content this year in summer to try to see if I can save up enough money to do that again. Yeah, without a sponsor or having millions of views or some other means, it we are kind of landlocked to where we can drive in a few hours or a day,
Hmm.
right? I mean, that's just the way it is. And you and I will go to Auburn. Worldwide Auctioneers has always been good to us. There'll be a whole new slew of cars there. They have the spring and then they have the fall, right? The Labor Day.
Yeah.
And if we really want to make a trip and go to a bigger auction, then we should go to Mecum in Indy, and that's in May. We could go there on a
Mm.
on a Saturday, spend the whole day there, and you could probably mark film cars that you could put out 2 reels a day for a year just at that one
I
event.
you're starting to sell me on it because I do like content.
Yeah,
Um, no, that's the hard thing. You get good I mean, for us, you get good content, but there's an expense in going to these.
yeah.
Um,
So we didn't by means cover everything we should with the what you should do to buy a car at auction and stuff. And but because we start talking and we kind of just
we ramble, and
go
we
off a
could
little bit
dip
here.
into this topic again. So if you have questions, you can do
Yeah.
comments. We'll look at those, and maybe we can dip into this again, and maybe yeah, especially next time we go to an auction, kind of debrief on that. But I think we kind of covered it pretty well today.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So that's this
So I don't
episode.
know if
Oh.
we picked Thursday night. It'd
Hmm.
be interesting to know, in the replay, how many people watched this. We had more on that Saturday, when we did it on a Saturday morning. So the only problem is Saturday mornings are tough once it
Yeah.
gets warm because we'll be out.
We'll be
But
at a show.
we'll have to see if we can get this Thursday to catch on. Right.
Yeah. Right.
All
Because
right.
Thursday's good and it previews our weekend. I mean, what I've got coming up, I don't know this weekend. We'll see. So anyway, I guess that's it for this episode. We do have ideas for a bunch of other ones. We want to do it about once a week or so, right?
Yeah.
So look for us, follow us. We'll post and let you know when they're on. And thanks for coming, and we'll post it and have it up for others to catch.
Yep. Keep your car clean.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.